One thing is for certain, I'm gonna miss that rooster. When I told people I was going alone to a couple of wellness retreats in Bali for my 43rd birthday, the reactions were fascinating. Some people looked at me as though I had announced that I was joining a cult. One comment was, "Oh, is this an Eat, Pray, Love thing? Julia Roberts went there, right?" I responded, "Nah, more like a remake of Groundhog Day thing. You know, Bill Murray, except I'm stuck in the most isolated city in the world on repeat." Others assumed I was having a midlife crisis, and to be fair, they weren't far off. A couple of women gave me the eye roll, as to say, "Why are you going on a wellness retreat? You're single, no kids. Why are you stressed out?" And a surprising number of people asked if I was hoping to meet someone. The truth is, I did go to Bali hoping to meet someone. Myself. And apparently, she had been very hard to reach. For years, I was busy doing all the things I thought I was supposed to do. Working, developing a career, make more money because it seems that inflation is never ending in Australia. Find the one, a soulmate, or just one. There, that one, he'll do. Pick a guy, any guy. And find a tribe. You know, your kind of people that make you feel safe and not so lonely. The ones that will make you feel included in the world, even though you feel you've done just fine on your own. Oh, and don't forget, find your why. You have to have a why, because why do we do anything we do, right? And it better be a good why reason. Can't be one of those airy-fairy whys, such as, "I want to give it a chance, you never know where it may lead." Or, "I thought it would be fun." No, 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 no. The why must amount to some form of success. Otherwise, that is totally weird. Be responsible. You got to be responsible, especially at my age. You got to have it all together, especially because you are single. Therefore, you had the time to sort out your shit, and now you need to take care of everyone else and consider their feelings over yours. And this will make you feel less selfish. Also, smile politely when people ask, "Why wasn't I married yet?" As if somehow I misplaced a husband and forgotten where I left him. Because not being in a marriage is not normal. However, it can be quite a confusing time, as you're lucky to have this free time if you don't have kids, but then you're missing out if you don't have them. And by the way, don't forget you are selfish for that. But I envy you for your solo life, yet you don't know what it feels like to be or have the struggles of a parent, because you were never once a child with a mother and a father, nor cared for anything else other than yourself. So you don't know what it is to love and have unconditional love. And it goes on and on and on and on, and so I empathize. Somewhere along the way, I became an expert at managing life, but not necessarily living it. I also was at the point where I felt the universe of divine existence was an illusion, as it never gave me any clear direction or precise destination. It were as if it was spinning me out into orbit to be lost forever into the abyss of darkness. Somehow, I convinced myself that everyone else was living their best life, while I was struggling to choose where I should be, what should I be doing, and what is the point of it all? None of it made any sense. So naturally, I did what any sensible, independent woman in a midlife rut would do. I booked wellness retreats in Bali and selfishly spoiled myself with a bougie 5-star retreat and a low-budget retreat just to get the full experience of both worlds. Because if you're feeling lost, apparently my light bulb answer was to spend several $1,000s to sit cross-legged on a yoga mat while someone named Moonflower asked me how I was really feeling. So I went to Bali. I traveled to Bali carrying a suitcase full of activewear that I thought would make me look like someone who enjoys sunrise yoga. I went with good intentions, unrealistic expectations, and enough emotional baggage to exceed the airline weight limit. And then something intriguing happened. The world didn't end because I was alone. Nobody looked at me with pity. Nobody handed me a form asking why I hadn't achieved the milestones society had mapped out for me. Instead, I found myself surrounded by extraordinary people, many of whom were asking the same questions I was. Who am I when I'm not performing for everyone else? What do I actually want? What would happen if I stopped apologizing for taking up space? Here in Bali, I've learned that wellness isn't about perfection. It's not green juice. It's not meditation apps. It's not a clairvoyant that tells you your future. It's not mastering a yoga pose that resembles human origami. Wellness is listening to yourself. It's learning that rest is productive. It's understanding your worth is not determined by your relationship status, your age, your dress size, your job title, or how many people you need in your life. And perhaps the biggest lesson for me has been this. Being single is not a waiting room. It is not a temporary condition before real life begins. This is real. Right now, not when I meet someone, not when or if I decide to have kids just because my eggs are dying. Not when I lose weight, not when I earn more money, not when everything is finally figured out. It's now. My now. I realized happiness isn't a destination. It's a decision to be present, to laugh at yourself, to embrace uncertainty, to trust that your life doesn't need to look like anyone else's to be meaningful. Happiness is women rebuilding, women healing, women beginning again, women who arrive exhausted and are leaving stronger. The women who are learning that being alone and being lonely are not the same thing. And especially women who have spent years believing they needed fixing only to discover they simply needed listening to. At 43, I haven't figured everything out, but I know this. I am enough. My life is enough. And the next chapter of my life doesn't need permission to begin. And I am grateful and thankful that the Bali experience reminded me of that. So for those viewers who have no idea what's going on because you haven't been watching the channel right from the beginning, well, a little bit about me, if you haven't gathered already. I was a 42-year-old single woman stuck in a rut, which means I had reached that magical stage of life where people stop asking, when are you getting married? And start asking, have you thought about getting a dog? When I signed up for the wellness packages in Canggu Escape Haven and Ubud Firefly Retreat, I imagined a couple of weeks in peace, self-discovery, and maybe becoming one of those people that say things such as, I only drink water infused with sparkling moonlight. Instead, I arrived in Bali with a suitcase full of activewear, a couple of pretty dresses that would make me feel like a lady, with a hyper-fixated idea to vlog my experience with little to no experience in the social media space. The first challenge was meeting a group of complete strangers. As a single woman in her 40s learning how to vlog, I wasn't sure if I was attending a wellness retreat or accidentally filming a very polite reality TV show on how pretty the facilities were. Within hours, I knew everyone's life story, childhood and adulthood trauma, from their occupation to their favorite book to the best country to travel. Then there was yoga. Now, before this trip, my idea of stretching was reaching that challenging position whilst looking good. But here in Bali, I discovered muscles I didn't know existed. The instructor would say, listen to your body. Mine would sometimes scream, what the hell are you doing? The instructor would say, open your beautiful eyes. And I would gush and smile. The instructor would say, inhale and exhale. And I would comply. I spent most classes trying to look serene while quietly negotiating with my hamstrings. Every now and then I'd slap away an irritating mosquito. The sound of skin slaps echoed through the jungle. I'm quite sure monkeys were laughing. And yet, somehow, I loved it. I began to understand the integral importance of breathwork and the profound meaning of mind, body, and spirit connection, not just with self, but with others around me. Then came the healthy food. The meals were delightful, a plethora of colorful, tasty recipes filled with vibrant ingredients. Basic, simple, and whole foods that made you feel warm and loved because it was made with warmth and love. Back home, yeah, just eyeball it. Just whack it together. If you add some green, then it's healthy. Or you can call it garnish. Then put on the TV. So grateful for Netflix, Prime, Binge, and a myriad of other streaming platforms that seem to have exactly the same shows. They're like condiments to go with every meal. But in Bali, I was reminded that eating healthy food means to love and nourish your body. It's the essential self-care for the unique human vehicle that will safely and efficiently get you through this journey called life. One of the greatest gifts of the retreats has been learning about Balinese culture. The warmth, kindness, and spirituality of the Balinese people have been inspiring. Everywhere we went, there were offerings, and we learned how to make these offerings. We participated in traditional ceremonies and learned how these activities impacted the mind, body, and spirit of the Balinese people. And we were reminded to slow down and appreciate life. It made me realize how often I rush through my days, focused on the next thing instead of appreciating the thing I'm already doing. The Balinese approach to community has also been eye-opening. People genuinely care for one another here. It reminded me that happiness isn't something you buy. It's built through connection, gratitude, and relationships. A gift I believe many people all over the world have chosen to forget. As greed, war, and crime infect their minds, they actually believe they are doing good in the world. And speaking of connection, who would have thought a group of strangers could become friends so quickly? We've shared meals, stories, laughs, sore muscles, and probably more information about our digestive system than most people share in their lifetime. What I've learned is that wellness isn't about perfection. It's not about mastering yoga poses, giving up chocolate forever, or achieving a so-called Instagram version of enlightenment. It's about showing up for yourself. It's about trying something new. It's about being brave enough to travel alone, meet new people, and discover that you're capable of much more than you thought. As a single woman, I spent years hearing people talk about what life is supposed to look like by this age. And if it's not appearing to look like theirs, then you're doomed for self-destruction. Or sometimes you're even ostracized. But this retreat reminded me that life doesn't have to follow anyone else's timeline. I'm still learning, growing, laughing, making mistakes, and occasionally falling over in yoga class or on that hike up that steep terrain. And honestly, that's actually wonderful. It's wonderful that I have the opportunity to do all of those things. So I thank the universe for answering my call even when I had become dubious of its intentions and existence, and for making me part of this world that I refer to as the human experience. Thank you for the friendships with random strangers, some of which I still remain in contact today, and for those people I will never see again. Thank you to the random stranger who supported and helped me in ways you will never realize you did, and for pretending not to notice when I slipped during a yoga pose or dozed off in meditation. I came to Bali hoping to recharge, and I'm leaving with a healthier body, a calmer mind, a fuller heart, and enough yoga pants to start my own activewear store. Most importantly, I'm leaving with the reminder that wellness isn't a destination. It's a practice. And if all else fails, I've learned that deep breathing can solve many problems. Not all problems, obviously. It won't fix my dating life, but it's a start. What I also feel the need to share is what I learned about past trauma and what I would tell my younger self. If I could sit across from my younger self today, there is one conversation I would want to have. I wouldn't start by telling myself that everything will be okay and not to worry what others think. At the time, those words would have felt too simple for something so complicated. Instead, I would tell myself this: what happened to you will change you, but it does not have to define you. Right now, you are carrying things that feel too heavy for someone your age. You are trying to make sense of experiences that don't make sense. You may be blaming yourself for things that were never your responsibility. You may think that if you had been stronger, smarter, quieter, louder, different somehow, things may have turned out another way. They wouldn't have. One of the hardest lessons you will learn is that trauma has a way of convincing people that they are the problem, when in reality, they are responding to painful circumstances the best they can. For a long time, you will mistake survival for weakness. You will criticize yourself for being anxious, guarded, angry, or afraid. But one day you will realize that many of those reactions were not signs that something was wrong with you. They were signs that your mind and body were trying to protect you. I would also tell you that healing is not a straight line. There will be moments when you think you have moved on, only to find yourself hurting again. There will be days when old memories feel surprisingly fresh. That doesn't mean you have failed. It means healing is a journey, not a destination. Growth isn't measured by never struggling again. It's measured by how you learn to carry your experiences differently. Most importantly, I would tell you that trauma may become part of your story, but it is not the whole story. You will laugh again. You will trust again. You will discover strengths you didn't know you had. You will meet people who see you for more than what you've been through. You will learn that your value was never determined by your pain. And one day you will stop asking, why did this happen to me? And start asking, what do I want to do with the life I have now? That question will change everything. So younger me, be patient with yourself. Give yourself the same compassion you offer to others. You do not need to have all the answers today. You do not need to heal on anyone else's timeline. And you don't need to forget your past because society said it's just too depressing, so toughen up. The experiences you survived will always be part of your history, but they do not get to decide your future. So manage your trauma with love and find a strategy to become your best self. Become your own best friend. And while I would never wish your pain on anyone, I am proud of the person you continue to become because you choose to keep going. Not perfectly, not fearlessly, just one step at a time. And sometimes that's the bravest thing a person can do. Now, to sum it up, I arrived in Bali expecting enlightenment. I imagined myself returning home transformed, maybe glowing, maybe speaking mysteriously about energy shifts, and perhaps committing to writing in my journal that I am grateful for sunshine. However, the journal has become an unsolicited autobiography, because somewhere between the breathwork, the yoga, and crying unexpectedly on the morning of my 43rd birthday after a night of sound bath healing and a profound discussion on trauma with strangers, I came to a rather uncomfortable realization. The person sabotaging my happiness wasn't my ex, not the workplace, nor the misogynistic man that called me fat, or the narcissistic neighbor with 3 excessive barking dogs. It's not my bad luck, Mercury retrograde, or the algorithm. It was me, myself, and I. It turns out I had become exceptionally skilled at standing in my own way. I was carrying old wounds, old disappointments, old stories, and somehow expecting them not to influence my future. I had spent years saying I want change while secretly building a very comfortable nest inside my comfort zone, keeping myself preoccupied with endless activities and side projects that I would never complete. And the attitude of, I'm fine, it's cool, just chill out and forget about it, Esther. It's the past, shrug it off, just shrug it away. Beneath all of it, I hadn't fully dealt with past trauma. The funny thing about trauma is that it doesn't disappear just because you become busy, successful, independent, or very good at pretending you're fine. It patiently follows you, waiting for an invitation to the conversation, as if it were a demon lurking in the dark matter of your brain, waiting for the ideal opportunity to jump out and frighten you. That's actually pretty obvious of me, but you get my drift. And Bali? Bali apparently was that invitation. However, it wasn't quite the party this little Sambo Demo was anticipating. Yes, I am an Australian. Abbreviation is in my blood. For those of you that don't know proper grammar, Sambo Demo is short for sabotaging demon. Well, Sambo Demo did surprise me on the trip, but I had a room full of party supporters cheering me on to grab those horns and ride this entity down. Metaphorically speaking, obviously. I didn't get to drink the juice that sends me DMTing into hallucination. Now, don't get me wrong. I didn't leave each retreat levitating or teleporting to another dimension. No one handed me a certificate declaring me fully healed. I still have insecurities. I still have unfinished side projects. I still overthink text messages. I still occasionally eat bad food for emotional support. But something shifted. For the first time in a long time, I stopped seeing myself as stuck in a rut. I started seeing myself as someone who was healing. And those are very different things. Healing isn't a finish line you cross while inspirational music plays in the background. It's a process. It's messy, it's uncomfortable. It's 2 steps forward and occasionally 1 dramatic step backwards. But it's movement. So, will I ever completely heal? Honestly, I don't know. Maybe healing isn't about becoming a perfect, flawless version of ourselves. Maybe it's about understanding ourselves a little better each day. Maybe it's about understanding ourselves a little better each day. Maybe it's about carrying our scars differently. Maybe it's about no longer letting the past write every chapter of the future. And will I persevere? Persevere to improve? Absolutely. Not because I suddenly became fearless in Bali, but because I finally realized that growth isn't something that happens to us. It's something we choose, again and again, and again and again. And I've come this far. At 43, I still have a long way to go. So I've turned the page. The next chapter isn't going to be perfect, but for the first time in a very long time, I'm excited to read it. So farewell, Bali, and welcome home, Perth, Western Australia.